Hi everyone, Steve here. Welcome to this edition of Monday Morning Musings. We are wrapping up this entire series in Paul's exposition of human psychology. Yes, Paul uses the term psyche or psyche. It plays a bit of a subordinate role. He advances the term pneuma for the spirit. He talks about soma, the body, but then he introduces a term into his letters called the flesh. In Greek, that's sarx. And this is one of the most difficult and complicated of all of Paul's psychological terms because I count at least 8 different ways. Maybe you might find more, or you might categorize them differently, but he uses this term sarx in so many different ways. And if we don't understand that, if we apply the wrong idea to one of his usages, we're going to be in a goofed up place. Or if we just emphasize one idea behind the term and plug that idea into all the verses, we're going to be in a messed up place. So I'm going to fire these off. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all of them because I want to wrap up this series on this episode. So I'm going to give you what I believe to be the 8 different ways Paul uses the term flesh, and that's why, and it's such a prominent term in his letters, and it's such a prominent idea in the New Testament, and it is unfortunately complicated. So here we go. Number 1, it can be used just to represent literally our flesh, our tangible materialness of ourselves. It can be used that way. Number 2, it can be used as a description for our physical body, our whole being. Can sometimes be called sarx. This is sarx. Sometimes it can be used as a reference to human origins. No man after the flesh, according to human origins. It can be used to describe just the way I look, outward appearances, or conditions. A condition like I was caught in a windstorm, my flesh was in the wind. It's a metaphor for my whole being in a certain condition. It can be used as a term for the realm in which human beings express their lives. The realm of the flesh, this earthly existence, can sometimes be referred to as the flesh. And the term that is pretty much uniquely Pauline is when he uses the term ethically. That's a distinctly Pauline usage of the term when he talks about in the flesh or in the spirit, or in Corinthians when he talks about a carnal person, which is a psychikos, or a pneumatikos, a spiritual person. He's talking about ethics there. And the flesh, in that sense of the term, basically is the simplest way, without turning this into, again, a college seminar, is those unregenerate aspects of human existence, particularly those that are hostile to God or contrary to God. It is an ethical realm of existence. And so that when he starts talking about walking in the flesh versus walking in the spirit, that's not about the list of taboos. Those who do this are walking in the spirit, and those who do this are walking in the flesh. And it relates to the next term. They're connected, but I believe they're different. The flesh can also be used by Paul as a term for a governing power. See, a governing power called the flesh manifests in my flesh with ethical behavior that can be called the flesh. So in that sentence alone, you could have 3 possible definitions, and I'm going to give that to you again. A realm of human existence outside the life of God, And that's very broad. And that includes religion, that includes Torah, that includes Christianity, that includes all the facets of what it means to be a human being can be described by Paul sometimes as the flesh. And that realm can find negative expression in my flesh. And that negative expressions can be manifest ethically badly, and that can be called the flesh also. And lastly, sometimes Paul's uses the term flesh very specifically for the unregenerate human nature. So not just those ethical principles, not principles, but those ethical realms of existence, and not just the arena in which powers express themselves, but the totality of human existence outside of the life of God can sometimes be called the flesh. And that's why this is a difficult subject. And you could see we could go verse by verse and go do hours and hours on this. So I want to wrap up this series with just a little bit of review. I believe I belabored the point, and I haven't got a lot of views on this series. It doesn't surprise me. I wasn't expecting any. But it is clear that the church for millennia has been Platonized. And when Paul uses the terms body, soul, and spirit in 1 Thessalonians, he is not speaking of a differentiated hierarchy of the facets of a human being. Those are all reiterative, repetitious ways of describing an entire human being. May God sanctify you entirely, wholly, W-H-O, not H-O-L, W-H-O-L-L-Y. May God sanctify you entirely. Boom, your body, boom. It's like he said, however you want to describe it, whatever nuance you want to put on it, it's all included in redemption. And there's more to salvation than getting your invisible soul into invisible heaven or invisible hell. That the life of the resurrected Son of God might be made manifest in your mortal body. There's nothing to demean about being a human being, existing as a human being. Now, our existence is going to experience two transformations. Something happens at death. We are clothed with something like Jesus was at his death. We're clothed with some sort of body. And then at the end of time, when all the graves are open, there'll be, again, some sort of transformation of bodily existence. So that's it on this series. For those of you that have stuck with me, I appreciate it. Going forward, I don't know where we're going to go, but I'm sure I'll come up with something for you a little less exhaustive on these Monday morning musings. Thanks, and I'll see you the next time.